More in love with someone in my life. I just look at him and I just can't believe he's mine. I'm just so grateful. Do just in terms of developing into a woman in myself and knowing myself more and more sure of myself after the
No one expected Halle Bailey to move on this fast. And yet, here she is, fresh off emotional chaos with her ex, quietly linked to one of the most unexpected names in the industry, Scott Bridgeway, a music producer tied to Kendrick Lamar himself. But fans aren't celebrating. In fact, they're more concerned than ever. Because while the yacht photos paint a picture of new love, the timing, the mystery, and the bigger implications have people asking one question. Is Halle really healing? Or is something deeper going on here? Something she doesn't want us to see? It started with a blurry TMZ-style snap. Halle Bailey reclining on the deck of a sleek yacht, sunglasses on, exuding that
Halle Bailey is dating Kendrick Lamar's music producer, Scott Bridgeway. As we all know by now, intimate photos of the couple have hit the internet while they
effortless serenity fans hadn't seen from her in a while. But it wasn't the solo shot that got the internet talking. It was the one just seconds later where she's seen leaning in, laughing, with Scott Bridgeway beside her. A quiet moment that turned into the loudest headline of the week. At first, people were confused. Who is Scott Bridgeway? A quick search revealed the answer. A Grammy-nominated producer with serious ties to Kendrick Lamar and a resume that spans multiple chart-topping albums. He's respected, but discreet. The kind of name that doesn't usually pop up in mainstream gossip. So seeing him in this context, with her, it wasn't just surprising, it was jarring.
Got this new dude and you're like, oh, he's an upgrade, and like y'all feel like he on her level though? Like, I'm just confused.
Because Halle isn't just coming off a breakup. She's coming off a public storm. Custody filings, whispers of court orders, emotional online leaks. It hasn't even been a full year since fans were rallying behind her to escape a relationship many believed was quietly unraveling behind the scenes. And now, she's booed up in the sun with someone new. Twitter lit up in real time. Is this healing? One user posted. Or is it PR distraction? Another replied. Fans didn't know whether to celebrate her soft launch or call it a red flag. And the timing? Absolutely brutal. What really caught fire wasn't just who she was with. It was how she chose to show it. A yacht. Tropical water.
Of India Love, Homegirl was busy with a whole new man. A very private man at that. For those of you,
a man most fans had never seen her even stand next to before. Suddenly holding her waist like they'd been inseparable for months. It didn't feel subtle. It didn't feel accidental. It felt like a statement. And that's where the criticism began. Many longtime supporters, people who had fiercely defended her during the roughest chapters of her past relationship, now felt whiplashed. We were just worried about her emotional health, one fan wrote, and now she's acting like she's never been hurt. Some called it growth, others called it avoidance. But the common thread was clear. The internet wasn't ready for this pivot, and whether she meant to or not, Halle Bailey had just kicked off a brand new narrative, one that might complicate everything she was trying to leave behind.
You know she's clearly not healed. If you just got out of a relationship with somebody that you really cared for and you jump in.
As images of Halle Bailey cuddled up with Scott Bridgeway began flooding social media, the reaction wasn't the celebration she might have expected. Instead, it was something far more complicated. People weren't just surprised. They were unsettled. The vibe across Twitter, Reddit, and even parenting TikTok was eerily consistent. Already? It wasn't that fans didn't want to see her happy. In fact, many had fiercely defended Halle throughout her tumultuous split with her unnamed ex. The one she never directly called out, but whose presence loomed in every cryptic lyric and cautious interview. That breakup wasn't just a gossip headline. It was an emotional saga that unfolded in real time. Fans watched her retreat from the spotlight.
That she paid the paparazzi to leak photos to the media of her and her new dude.
Clutch her sun halo tighter and choose silence over spectacle. So when she reappeared, not at a press event or musical comeback, but on a yacht, pressed up against Kendrick Lamar's producer, it sent shockwaves. Because for many, this wasn't growth. This was grief, dressed up in distraction. The comments started pouring in. She didn't even give herself time to breathe. This doesn't look like healing, it looks like hiding. How can she be all in on someone new when she's still mid-custody battle? And that last point is what really hit hard. Because Halo isn't just a backdrop to Halle's life, he's a baby. Growing, observing, absorbing, and every emotional high, every moment of instability or detachment,
been granted physical and legal custody of her and DDG's son, Halo, following his alleged abuse.
Ripples through his world in ways Halle may not even realize. Psychologists have long said that children, especially infants, are emotional barometers. They regulate their nervous systems by syncing with their caregivers. If Halle's energy is erratic, jumping from heartbreak to honeymoon phase, it doesn't just affect her. It shapes Halo's developing sense of safety and trust. And fans know this. That's why the judgment didn't feel like hate. It felt like heartbreak. They weren't attacking her. They were mourning with her. Mourning the version of Halle they had believed in. The one who seemed thoughtful, measured, ready to rise above the cycle of toxicity she had just escaped.
Now another baby mama, and with all of that girl's accolades and accomplishments, particularly at such a young age.
Now, some are wondering if she's repeating that cycle all over again. Because when the wounds are fresh and the applause is still echoing from your last public battle, moving on too quickly doesn't look brave. It looks like denial. And in this case, with a child in the middle, the consequences might be far more lasting than Halle realizes. The truth is, fans aren't just speculating about a rebound. They're starting to trace a pattern. Because if you zoom out, past the red carpets, the baby photos, the cryptic Instagram captions, there's a rhythm to Halle Bailey's relationships that's getting harder to ignore. Each time she steps out of a chapter, it's like she sprints into the next. From the outside, it looks like whiplash. One moment,
yeah, hyping Hollywood, a new dude talking about some Halo got a dad now. Halo got a father figure.
She's guarded and reflective, sharing poetic glimpses of heartbreak. The next, she's wrapped in someone else's arms, posting sun-soaked yacht photos and smiling like nothing happened. But what's really going on behind that smile? Some fans and mental health commentators are calling it exactly what it seems: a trauma cycle. A response pattern rooted not in freedom, but in fear. Fear of solitude, fear of stillness, fear of sitting too long with the pain that never fully healed. In psychology, this is often referred to as emotional displacement. It's when a person transfers their unresolved feelings onto someone new, not because they've moved on, but because they're desperate not to feel stuck.
Yo, Halle, you can't do nothing right. You ain't learned from Cardi B? You gotta pop out with us.
And that theory starts to make sense when you look at the timeline. Halle didn't take time to recalibrate. She didn't disappear to heal. Instead, she reemerged in full glam, coupled up, like she was flipping the page before finishing the last chapter. But fans haven't forgotten what that last chapter held. Legal filings, restraining orders, whispers of instability. And let's not forget, she was pregnant and postpartum during much of that chaos. A time when many women withdraw from public life to prioritize their healing, Halle stayed visible. But maybe that visibility was a shield, something to focus on while the real healing got pushed to the background. That's why this new relationship isn't being received as a fairy tale.
Somebody tell Halle to leave them dreadheads alone. Like, I thought when she went to Italy, she was gonna go over there and get her a nice Italian man that treated her like a prince.
It's being dissected as a distraction. Because even if Scott Bridgeway is a kind, grounded partner, if Halle hasn't done the internal work to rebuild herself first, then all he becomes is a placeholder. And deep down, fans know that. That's why they're not cheering right now. They're watching, waiting, hoping she doesn't lose herself again by rushing into another identity before reclaiming her own. Because you can't build a healthy bond when the foundation beneath you is still cracked. And from the outside, Halle's house of cards looks like it's swaying in the wind. While the public is busy speculating about Halle Bailey's new relationship with Scott Bridgeway, there's someone else quietly at the center of all this. Someone who doesn't have a voice in the headlines.
As long as she's not putting your child in harm's way, her personal life don't have nothing to do with you. They've been broken up since October. Get over it.
But whose future could be shaped by every decision being made right now. her baby's son, Halo. Because when there's a child involved, especially one still in their most formative months, every move hits differently. This isn't just about who Halle dates, it's about who she brings into her child's world. And for fans who've watched her journey, that's where concern turns into genuine fear. Let's not forget, Halo was born into chaos. His earliest months were clouded by rumors, emotional Instagram posts, and a custody battle with a man Halle once trusted completely. And just as things seemed to settle down, this new romance appeared. Fast, flashy, and public. But babies absorb everything.
She said that DDG has hidden baby Halo before, and more than
their brains are wired to mirror their caregivers' emotional states. When a mother is anxious, overwhelmed, or distracted, a baby feels that energy, even if they can't understand it. Psychologists call it emotional attunement, and it's crucial in the early stages of development. And fans aren't just guessing here. They're watching closely, pointing out how the timing of this new relationship feels off. Like a rushed pivot, not just for Halle, but for the entire environment her son is growing up in. Because the truth is, no matter how in love, a new couple appears on a yacht. If the emotional foundation isn't stable, that energy trickles down.
Producer, we're gonna get more to him in a minute. Oh, I think it's absolutely real. From the smile on his face to...
And when that happens, it's not just the adults who suffer, it's the child who grows up trying to make sense of fractured dynamics, inconsistent love, and sudden emotional shifts. That's why some people are urging Halle to pause, not because she doesn't deserve happiness, but because she has a responsibility now. A responsibility to create peace, not just for herself, but for the little boy who didn't choose any of this. Because being a mother isn't just about showing up. It's about setting the emotional tone of a child's entire world. And right now, Halo's world is moving fast. Too fast. By now, even some of Halle Bailey's most loyal fans are starting to ask a difficult question. Is this really love?
To be happy, and maybe her nigga's not private, maybe her nigga's private and he's not all into the internet.
Or is it just a distraction? Because if you look back at the timeline of her relationships, a pattern starts to form. And it's one that therapists and psychologists refer to as emotional enmeshment. It's when your sense of identity becomes deeply tied to another person, often without you even realizing it. And after everything she went through with DDG, from sudden pregnancy rumors to the emotional back and forth that played out across social media, some are worried she's falling into the same cycle again, only now with someone new. But this time, the stakes are different, because now there's a baby involved. And more importantly, now the world is watching. Fans have pointed out how quickly this new relationship with Scott Bridgeway seemed to materialize.
He's worked with a lot of artists, but he's most popular for his work with Kendrick Lamar's latest album.
One moment, she's quietly focused on motherhood. The next, she's smiling on a yacht, pressed up against someone with deep industry ties, just like her last partner. It doesn't take a psychologist to wonder, is this about healing or is this about avoiding the silence? Because silence for some people is scarier than chaos. And that's what makes this moment so dangerous. If Halle hasn't fully processed the emotional fallout from her past relationship, how can she be sure this new one isn't just another way to avoid being alone with that pain? Even more, some fans are speculating that she may have confused comfort with connection, something that happens often when a person is fresh out of emotional trauma. After all, Scott Bridgeway is successful.
The mermaid said she on that boat, okay, with her new boo. And if I heard correctly, her new boo is my short king.
Well-connected and far removed from the internet drama that once engulfed her. On the surface, it looks like a safe bet. But relationships built on escape rarely end in stability. This isn't about judgment. It's about recognizing a deeper emotional pattern that's all too common. When the wounds of the past are still open, we don't always reach for the right kind of love. We reach for the nearest one. And if Halle isn't careful, she could end up dragging her old heartbreak into a brand new relationship. And that never ends well. It didn't take long for the whispers to get louder. On fan forums, TikTok comment sections, and even Reddit threads, the narrative around Halle Bailey's love life is shifting. and fast.
Or we're gonna go get on the boat. We're gonna have a good time. She up here. Let me not get into that yet. We seen it.
At first, her connection with Scott Bridgeway seemed refreshing. A clean break from the rapper drama, a new chapter with someone who wasn't chasing clout. But the more people looked at the timeline, the more things started to feel off. Because the optics aren't lining up. One moment, Halle is locked in a quiet custody dispute, barely even posting. The next, she's wrapped up with a major music producer, on a yacht, no less. And while fans were initially thrilled to see her smiling again, that excitement has slowly morphed into concern. Some say it's just too fast. Others say it's not about the speed, it's about the silence. Because despite all the attention this new pairing is getting, neither Halle nor Scott has said a word.
He doesn't want his son, but when Halle moves on, it's yes, sleeping. Okay, clock it.
No posts, no interviews, not even a casual like or comment to acknowledge the speculation. And that silence, it's making things worse. Fans are now wondering, what are they hiding? Is it a PR relationship to distract from something else? Is Scott just the rebound with the right connections? Or worse, did Halle jump into this to make a statement without realizing the consequences? People have started connecting dots that might not even be there. Because when you don't control the narrative, the internet will create one for you. And in Halle's case, that narrative is starting to look messy. Because for someone who built her brand on elegance, privacy, and purpose,
that's about to come out by DDG and his team to expose this girl behavior. Mind you,
this sudden detour into celebrity entanglement is raising red flags. And now the worry isn't just about her choices, it's about her judgment. For years, Halle Bailey has carried a carefully polished image. She wasn't just Beyoncé's prodigy or one half of Chloe x Halle. She was the chosen one, the Little Mermaid, the new face of timeless beauty, a symbol of grace, talent, and quiet strength. But lately, that pedestal is starting to shake. Because what began as admiration is now turning into scrutiny. Fans who once defended her through the DDG chaos are suddenly pulling back. The tone online has shifted.
The custody battle with DDG, and it's just a lot going on. And you got time for him?
Comments under her posts are more questioning than celebratory. Words like reckless, tone deaf, and even performative are showing up more frequently, especially from the fans who once championed her the loudest. And the brand deals? Some of them are reportedly watching closely too. See, Halle didn't just land roles. She landed trust. She was marketable not just because of her voice, but because of what she represented. Calm, intentional femininity. But the moment the yacht photos dropped, that perception cracked. Not because she's dating, but because the silence, the timing, and the shift from legal battles to luxury escapes felt too abrupt.
To the point where y'all really saying that her dating Kendrick Lamar's producer is nothing. Baby, that is a big upgrade.
Too curated. Almost calculated. Even her connection to Scott Bridgeway, while impressive on paper, is being picked apart. His background, his industry ties, the fact that he stayed out of the public eye until now. Fans are asking if this is just another strategic pairing, not a real one. And in an age where public trust is everything, perception is reality. If the public starts to believe Halle is playing the same fame game as everyone else, her entire brand could lose its uniqueness. The one thing that made her different, her authenticity, now hangs in the balance. Because once you become the topic of gossip, the girl next door image is hard to maintain.
And then it's gonna make you more mad, and I know it is, but I'm gonna still ignore you.
And then came the subtle but undeniable power move that shifted the entire conversation. Halle Bailey didn't clap back. She didn't post some dramatic quote or do a tell-all. She did something far more calculated and far more effective. She simply leveled up, quietly locking in a brand partnership that sent a very loud message to everyone watching. She's in full control now. This wasn't just another influencer deal or generic endorsement. According to sources close to the negotiation, the brand handpicked Halle not just for her image, but for her resilience. They saw how she carried herself through the drama, the headlines, the speculation, and they wanted that energy front and center. It was a strategic partnership that painted her in a whole new light.
If it's one thing about them Bailey girls, Chloe and Halle, baby, they love them a hood nigga, okay?
Powerful, composed, and undeniably in demand. And the timing? Perfect. Just as people were beginning to question her choices, Halle flipped the narrative without saying a word. Suddenly, she wasn't the girl escaping drama. She was the woman defining her future. But what made this moment even more impactful was the reaction behind the scenes. People from Halle's past, some of whom had spent months throwing quiet shade, started acting up. Cryptic tweets, unfollowing sprees, subtle jabs hidden in captions. It all started bubbling to the surface. Fans were quick to catch it. They knew what it meant. That kind of energy doesn't come from peace. It comes from being replaced.
Ethiopian restaurant, and then I thought that was the end of the date. And then she was like, I'm finna go see a movie.
Through it all, Halle? Silent. Not even a passive-aggressive like. Not one indirect quote reposted to her story. She didn't bite. She didn't blink. And that silence spoke louder than any interview ever could. It was the kind of silence that says, I've moved on. I don't need to explain myself anymore. For a woman who had spent so long having to defend her choices, her love life, and her role as a mother, this wasn't just a personal win. It was a full-circle moment. One that let the world know Halle Bailey isn't just surviving. She's thriving. And the people who once tried to control the narrative, they're now just watching from the sidelines.
Halle Bailey has always been and continues to be fully deserving of all protection, care, and consideration.
At the end of the day, Halle Bailey isn't just stepping into a new chapter. She's rewriting the entire story. From emotional court battles to silent rebounds, from social media whispers to bold power moves, she's proving she's no longer interested in being the girl people pity or the headline people dissect. She's becoming the woman who knows exactly what she wants and refuses to let the past define her. But one question still lingers. Was this all part of the plan? Or is she still healing in plain sight? Either way, the internet is watching. And something tells us this isn't the last twist we'll see. Let us know what you think. Has Halle truly moved on, or is there more going on behind the scenes than anyone realizes? Drop your thoughts below, because this story, it's far from over.